Am I the a-hole for taking my friend to court after she kicked me out of the bridal party for cutting my hair? For my friend's 3-day wedding, I had to buy 3 different dresses, including alterations and specific shoes, which totaled over $700. She also wanted specific hairstyles for each day. Unfortunately, starting in March, my hair started to deteriorate. Due to health reasons, my hair was falling out in chunks, and in May, I made a difficult decision to cut my hair. I told the bride about my decision 2 weeks before the wedding, and she didn't say anything bad. The following week, she came over to my house, and when she was about to leave, she brought up that she was so concerned about my haircut. And I told her it would look good even though I wouldn't be uniform with the other bridesmaids. Then the following day, I received this message. After our recent conversations, I'd like to remind you of my boundaries. I've been very accommodating and graceful, but I can't allow you to disrespect me. As you know, my wedding has been something I've dreamt of for many years. Husband and I have invested a lot of money into the video and photos of this day, and as we reflect on this day in the future, we want to see our vision reflected in the memories. Since I asked each of you to be bridesmaid in 2019, I've been very clear and very communicative in my request. The timing of your decision to cut your hair and not inform me in advance is very upsetting to me. I would have felt respected if you had communicated with me more than a week prior to the wedding, so we could have worked together to find a collaborative solution. Your inconsistencies have concerned me, and while I sympathize with your health concerns, I'm not willing to compromise my vision to accommodate you or anyone else. If you have informed me in advance, we could have found a better solution. Since this is something you can no longer fully commit to, I need you to please step down from participating in my wedding. This was 3 days before the wedding. I immediately sent her and her husband an invoice asking them to reimburse for the dresses and shoes. Keep in mind that one of the dresses is still in her possession even though I paid for it. Neither of them replied, and so I decided to take it to the court. I was told I was inconsistent and selfish after I spent the past 2 weeks helping her plan a wedding shower. I worked with another bridesmaid to surprise her with a bridal shower after our bachelor trip had to be cancelled. I spent hours helping her out with the wedding details. When she asked me to help her tone up before the wedding, I sent her a personalized workout program and even went with her to the gym to show her the ropes. When I agreed to be her bridesmaid, I was more than willing to oblige with what she asked, even if at times it was a lot of time and money. So, am I the a-hole for taking her to court because she kicked me out for cutting my hair? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Should have had a lawsuit served to her at the altar. Do you take your bridezilla to be your lawfully served wife? Not the a-hole. I mean, not the a-hole. She's a massive A and should pay you the money. But she won't because she's a massive entitled A. But I'm guessing you don't have any sort of written contract? Depending on verbal contract laws where you are, I suppose you can argue that expenses were incurred on the agreement that you were at the bridal party. On the other hand, if she's been as much of a control freak bridezilla as you say, she might be able to show evidence that a reasonable person would know that in this wedding, changing physical appearance would be seen as a breach of expectations by making themselves unsuitable for the bridal party. It's going to be a hell of a thing to argue successfully in court. There's no contract or verbal contract. I had obliged to every single thing she wanted. Dresses, shoes, makeup, jewelry. The last day of the wedding was a Monday, so I even took off work. The only thing was my hair. I physically could no longer do any of the hairstyles, and wigs are just too expensive. And because of how much I had already spent, I couldn't afford one. I would seek some form of legal advice. You'd have had what a lot of places would have considered a verbal contract, that you agreed to be a bridesmaid and participate in the wedding with the understanding you'd have to buy X things in order to do it. But there won't be anything about reimbursement, I imagine. As for the evidence, at a guess you might have more than you think if you have emails/messages being all, to be a bridesmaid you need to buy X and X and X, etc. On the other hand, if she detailed hairstyles you now can't achieve, offered a wig solution or specified not to cut/dye hair, it might be seen as a breach. Like I said, get legal advice. Luckily, I had friends who are in the legal system, and they've helped me out and helped me prepare my case. I don't have a court date yet, and probably won't for a while because of COVID, but I'm prepared for it all, and have all my evidence gathered from emails, text, invoices, witnesses, etc. Not an a-hole, not one bit. I can't allow you to disrespect me. And then she turns around and utterly disrespects you and your friendship. What a horrible, heartless friend she is. You've done your absolute best to be involved with her wedding/bridal shower and helping her so much in addition to paying hundreds for your dresses, etc. And she kicks you out because of your hair? For which you have an extremely valid reason for cutting. And even if you didn't, it'd still be absolutely ridiculous for her to do and say all this. I'm baffled. I can only imagine how you're feeling. All the best to you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for enforcing a country club's dress code and not changing my venue? I'm getting married in February at a country club my fiancé's parents belong to. The club has a strict dress code in their dining area, even for events. Jacket, ties, and slacks/khakis for men. Dresses or slacks/khakis and a blouse for women. Kids are dresses, slacks and nice shirts. No logos. I put this on to save the date in case it would be an issue. Keep in mind, it's not a rule I created. Now, my younger sister is in college, and her standard outfit is basketball shorts and a t-shirt. I told her she didn't have to wear a dress, but slacks or khakis and a nice top. She told me no. I said it was strictly enforced, but she said she didn't care. I told her that it would mean a great deal to me and I could help her find something comfy. She still refused. So I asked why this was so important, and she said she thinks dress codes are stupid and she's not conforming. In the end, after constant back and forth, she said she's not coming. I said that really upset me as we were very close and I wanted her there. My mom says I should just change the venue, but I told her we can't with how close the wedding is. My in-laws paid for it and they'd lose their deposit. She told me that I should ask for an exception to be made, but the club said no. My mom says I'm forgetting my roots to impress my fancy in-laws. Am I the a-hole? Change the entire venue. For one person? Your sister isn't a nonconformist. She wants others to conform to her. Not the a-hole. You were very open with her and gave her plenty of options. Also, khakis and a nice shirt isn't that strict of a dress code. My parents and other siblings also hate the dress code, but were willing to go along. Now that sister is refusing, they feel less alone. Do they hate the dress code or are they envious that you're marrying a wealthier family? I don't know if that's that. They're all just very laid back. No cares for the future or what comes. They don't care if people hate them. When they met my future in-laws, we went to this nice place with no dress code, but it's implied you dress up. My family showed up in jeans, shorts. My dad wore a t-shirt advertising a beer company. Not the a-hole. Forget any written code. Basketball shorts and a t-shirt are not appropriate to wear for a wedding guest. They aren't appropriate for most jobs at all. Not sure what her future is going to be if she must wear basketball shorts all the time. Even in entry-level fast food, retail, or construction jobs all require pants. Not the a-hole. Your sister needs to learn that certain events require certain rules to be followed. She's an adult, isn't she? She's 22. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take off my engagement ring for my sister? I, female 26, recently lost my fiancé, male 28, in a car accident. My sister's, female 23, boyfriend, male 25, who happened to be my fiancé's brother, was also lost in that accident. It was very sudden and overwhelming for both me and my sister, and we are still both struggling after weeks of grieving. I'm still having trouble processing that I will never be able to marry him, and I have been wearing the engagement ring every day since he passed. It has been a very difficult few weeks for my sister and I, and we have been trying to cope together since. But yesterday, we had a fight about my ring. She asked me if I was ever going to take the ring off, and told me that I was being selfish for wearing that ring. She insisted that she was never able to get engaged or get married to her boyfriend, and that my fiancé was dead, so I wouldn't be getting married to him anytime soon, so I shouldn't wear it. I don't know if it was the grief talking, but either way, I got angry real fast and flipped out on her. Yes, wearing the ring won't bring him back, but it was the last thing he gave me before he died. I'm not sorry for wanting to treasure that ring, even if there will never be a wedding ring to accompany it. I argued this, but it only made her angrier and our argument escalated. She left my apartment after that in a rage. We are both suffering from our grief, and I have no right to claim I have it worse. But I believe I was justified in yelling at her for what she said, and that she shouldn't have been so hurtful to me like that. My family, however, doesn't agree. And I have received several texts telling me that I was out of line for what I said. Am I the a-hole Reddit? Keep your ring. Wear it with pride and be proud of the love it will forever hold. You and your sister have suffered a terrible, terrible loss. And while she's grieving, I don't think she means to be so cruel. At least I hope not. Maybe she just was never given something sentimental from her boyfriend, so she's just upset she has nothing to hold or wear daily like you do. May I suggest a locket for both of you? Maybe matching sets each with pictures of your late loves inside? Again, I am so sorry for your loss. Grieve how you wish. You will grieve differently. But you do not have to change how you give for someone else's comfort. Not the a-hole. 100% this. Hope she, like you, is in the middle of the grieving process. I don't think she meant to be cruel. And I don't believe you did either. You are reacting to her. You both need time, understanding, and maybe therapy. Cherish your ring and the love it holds. No a-holes here. Not the a-hole. You grieve how you need to. You got something she didn't, but you both missed out on so much. Let her know you are sorry she feels that way, but you need to grieve how you need to grieve. And for both, I would seek out professional grief counseling. Their relationship reminds me of my aunts and uncles' relationships. Two sisters married to brothers. They both were beautiful couples that stayed together for decades until death came. To think that beauty was cut so short and suddenly so tragic. I hope they find peace and new love in their lives. I am so sorry for your losses. Grief affects everyone differently, and although it was out of line for her to ask you to stop wearing the ring, it sounds like it is the grief talking, assuming that this is not normal behavior for her. It was within your right to push back, and understandable that you would want to wear something so dear to you and your fiancé's memory. No a-holes here. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for spending a large amount of money in a trip with my dad instead of paying the debt on my boyfriend's house? I, 29 female, recently got in a fight with my boyfriend, 30 male, and his family because I refused to spend my savings in house payment that could result in him getting kicked out of the house. So context. I've dealt with mental health problems all my life, but when I turned 20, I was at my worst. Due to that, I couldn't maintain a stable job while studying in college. My parents have always been supportive of me. They let me live with them, and my dad paid for my psychologist, medicine, all my college education, and maintained me until I was 24, while also taking care of my mom and my 3 younger siblings. He's a super hard-working man, and I think he enjoys and loves to give me and my siblings the best he can. Top-tier parenting, and I love him to death. Fast forward to this year. I have a stable job that pays really well, and I've been saving money for the past 5 years because I wanted to do something for my dad as a thank you for all the sacrifices he has done for me. His dream has always been to go to Disney World. We are not from the USA, and stay in one of those fancy hotels, but he was never able to do it. And now that he is retired, he thought he would never be able to. So I have been saving money in secret to make it happen, and the only one that knew about my savings was my mom, and she loved the idea. I've been with my boyfriend for 1.5 years now. He has a good job, but he is not the best at taking care of his finances. He bought his house before we meet, and he is still paying for it. But due to his poor management of money, he starts accumulating debt due to house payments. But a few weeks ago, he told me that there is a chance of him losing his house if he doesn't pay the debt. Last week, I finally reached my goal and had enough money to take my dad to his dream trip. Just the 2 of us. I told my boyfriend that I was really excited, but he was livid. It asked me how could I be so selfish and go on a stupid vacation trip when he is about to get kicked out of his house. He also told me that if we were in for the long run, I should help him to get out of his debt because that could eventually be my house too. We don't live together. I live in a small apartment. He also told me that his trust was betrayed because I've been hiding the savings from him and that a good partner does not do that. I told him that it was not my responsibility to pay for his debt, but he kept yelling at me. So I left. He told his mom and sister about it, and now both of them have been harassing me, going to my apartment and to my work telling me how horrible I am for not helping him and trying to convince me to pay his debt. I get that my boyfriend is going through a hard time, but this is something I've been working really hard to achieve, and since my dad is starting to have difficulties walking, with his eyesight and his health in general is getting worse, I don't want to wait any longer to take him on this trip. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. But you are breaking up with him, right? You can't continue to be with someone that's so controlling and abusive. He sends his family to your house to harass you into giving him your hard-earned money when he can't even manage his own finances. Could you just imagine what he would be like if you lived with him? If the example you have of a good and decent man is your father, why would you choose to be with the opposite of that? Don't accept less than what you have been raised to expect. If you will, for example, one guy ended his girlfriend and her kids because she wouldn't give him half her $600 stimulus check. So not today, Hall, and get out of there. I feel like this is something that he and the family will always hold over your head if they can stay that level-headed. Give your dad his gift and say goodbye to deadbeat's boy toy. Horrifying. Opie is a good person and deserves better. And it was smart not to tell her terrible with money boyfriend about her savings. It's not his money and none of his business. Not today, Hall. The minute I read that you don't live together and he is only your boyfriend, he has no say in your finances. His house, his problem. He made his own mess. I hope your trip to Disney World is super fun for your father and you. Also, his mom and sister are over the line. Like restraining order worth. If they're so concerned, they can bail him out themselves. Actually, just dump the guy because this is just one big red flag about controlling your money. The idea that is asking her to put money to his house is bad enough. But to demand Opie's hard-earned money with no offer to give her an equity stake in said house? Absolutely freaking unbelievable. Where do people find this kind of entitlement? Your boyfriend is showing his true colors. He expects you to forgo your plans for his lack of planning. His debts and lack of budgeting is on him, not you. Dump him. Take the trip with your dad and enjoy. Just as importantly, so is his family. Opie can expect to be harassed anytime he wants something she's unwilling to give. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that he got exactly what he wanted and he needs to stop being selfish? I have an old college friend, Nick, 32 male, and he has a fiancée, Sophie, 24 female. They've been together 3 years, and Nick has repeatedly suggested an open relationship, to which Sophie has refused. Until a few months ago when he said he'd only propose if she agreed to try an open relationship. She agreed. I said to him at the time that he was an A for it. But he said he was just acting in his best interests. Now, Nick wanted an open relationship so he could see Anna, 29 female, a girl we knew from college who he always had a thing for. But she was married from when she was 18 to 26, so we never had a chance until recently. He hasn't had a chance to see her yet because she had been living with her sick mom, and they can't afford to rent a hotel room. Now, the issue is that Nick showed up at my house last weekend with a suitcase, absolutely livid, and asked to crash on my couch. He said Sophie had gone out to dinner and slept with a male model, and that she was cheating because he hadn't had a chance to see Anna yet, and it was unfair for her to see someone so much hotter than Anna. Not that Anna isn't attractive. I basically laughed at him and told him this is exactly what was going to happen, and that it was being selfish expecting Sophie not to see anyone or to see people less attractive than her, as she's very attractive, and I don't know why she's with Nick, to be honest. He went off on me for not being supportive and stormed out. It is trying to turn our friend group against me for not supporting him. I've taken a few days to think about it, but I still can't decide. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Well, if it isn't the consequences of his own actions. Not an a-hole. He asked for it. He got it. Looks like someone fooled around and found out. This is literally the way this goes 90% of the time. I've even experienced a friend in this situation. The AL partner wants to cheat with permission and overinflates their chances of being able to in their head. They wear the partner down until they agree, and surprise, surprise, it's the unwilling partner that goes out and gets them some. Not a-hole. It sounds like a super crappy friend. Not a-hole. Dude didn't want an open relationship. He just wanted permission to cheat. I hope Sophie has realized that the grass is greener on the other side. Not an a-hole. He doesn't want an open relationship. He wants to date whoever he wants without any repercussions, while his girlfriend has to be 100% loyal to him. He said he was just acting in his best interests. Translation? I only care about myself, so everything I do is justified if it benefits me. Rolls eyes at Nick. Not the a-hole. He needs no sympathy. He had a woman in mind when he asked and requested an open relationship, so he could keep Sophie as backup if this thing with Anna didn't work out. He probably thought Sophie wasn't hot enough to get someone, or thought Sophie would be so in love with him she wouldn't take advantage of what is frankly his demand. Oh man, I hope that he ends up without Sophie or Anna. I think you should lay it out to your friends group the scam he was perpetrating on the women in his life, and how whiny he was when the scam blew up in his face. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking him how old he is? I'm writing this at work right now because it just happened. I was pushing a cart full of stock down the aisle when this guy stopped me. His exact words were, "Hey, I noticed you because you're really pretty. Would you maybe want to grab dinner or something sometime?" Now for some context, I am 21 as of this year, and this dude that stopped me to ask me out looked like he could be absolutely no younger than 37 or 38. I'm sorry if this offends you, but in my eyes, this is a little bit creepy. I was honestly shocked because I thought this guy was just gonna ask me for directions or help or something. And in my shock, all I could think to do was look at this guy and ask him, "How old are you?" disbelievingly right to his face. His only response to me was, "Well, you don't have to be a witch about it." And then he walked away. So now I'm just here at my podium wondering whether or not I was actually a witch about it. I wasn't trying to be rude, but I was just genuinely kind of shocked. I accept whatever judgment you see fit past Reddit. I just want a little clarity. Oh, hell no. You are not an a-hole. Good for you to ask that question and put him on the spot. Well done. Absolutely not an a-hole. OP, first of all, you weren't being an a-hole. And second, if there's ever a time to be an a-hole, it's when someone's being creepy like this. Was it gracious? No. But hey, guess what? You don't have to be gracious to men 15 plus years older than you who are hitting on you at work. Dude wants to shoot a shot at some random much younger woman in her workplace. He can develop a thick enough skin to deal with all the possible responses, including this one. Guys, don't steamroll in and ask a retail worker to go out with you while they're on a job. They're at work. They're stuck there. They're a captive audience who will get in trouble if they piss you off. A really crappy dynamic to be hitting on people, especially when they're much younger than you. Not a a-hole. OMG this. There was another post on here a week or so ago with the same issue. It is so weird and just annoying to ask someone out while they're at work. She is being paid to be nice and assist customers with a friendly face, not to get accosted by any guy or girl who finds her attractive. Let her do her job. Jeez. Not a a-hole. And OP, you don't ever owe anyone the time of day just because they feel like you do. One time a guy asked me to dinner as I was cleaning his puppy's piss off the floor. Not a a-hole. If he really thought you were significantly older than you were, he would have just told you how old he was. That he didn't pretty much proves to me that he knew he shouldn't have been anywhere near you. It's absolutely creepy. People in their mid to late 30s have no business going anywhere near people your age like that. And I say that as someone in their 30s. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving a kid, who I don't know, a ride to the hospital after he broke his leg? This happened yesterday, but I, 28 male, was at my local mall doing shopping, and when I finished up, I went out to my car. I parked in an above-ground parking building. When I got to my car, I noted there was a bunch of kids. I'd say 14 to 16. Rough guess since I didn't bother asking. They were skateboarding. Just doing what kids do really. Then suddenly, I heard a blood-curdling scream, and I look over and I see a kid on the ground holding his leg. So I walk over to see if everything was okay. To say the least, everything was not okay. The kid broke his leg in a bad way. Not sure how, as I wasn't really paying them any attention. But was for sure broken. Everyone was freaking out, and I said I'll call the ambulance, which just made the kid cry harder, saying something along the lines like, "My parents are going to kill me." His friends were saying I should just give him a ride to the hospital as it was only 3 blocks away. I thought for a moment, but opted to still call for an ambulance. I called the ambulance. They showed up like 5 minutes later. The whole time, everyone was trying to convince me to just drive him, and I stayed firm of, nope, not gonna happen. The ambulance is on the way. After the kid was put into the ambulance, and I gave my statement to the police, police show up to calls with ambulances to make sure they have all the needed info. The kids were all still complaining that I could have just given him a ride to the hospital instead of making his parents go into debt. Man, I think they watch too much American TV because we're in Canada. No one goes into debt for an ambulance ride here. Last time I had to get an ambulance to the hospital, it costed me like $50. Thank you, Canadian healthcare. Anyways, later when I came home, I was telling my girlfriend about what went down, and she called me an a-hole too, because you should have just done the right thing. The kid was hurt and you have a car. And I said back, and ambulances are a thing. And I'm a total stranger to this kid and like, what would have happened if the kid somehow got more hurt while in my car? Not trying to catch a case. Wanted some outside perspective. Am I the a-hole for not giving the kid a ride to the hospital? Not the a-hole. Taking charge of an unknown, vulnerable minor whom you don't know, without their parents' consent? Nope, nope, nope. You did the right thing. Yes, if anyone should be concerned about going into debt here, it's OP. Moving someone with a severe break can cause further damage if you don't have medical training. Driving away with a minor stranger in your car is obviously also a legal minefield. If ambulances didn't exist, and no adults the kid knew were reachable, I would have driven him. But ambulances do exist, so... I'm a nurse, and I would not touch a kid with such an injury. I would have done exactly what you did. It could be the kid was more worried about getting in trouble with his parents because maybe he was supposed to be home doing chores or whatever. Not the a-hole. Definitely not the a-hole. Liability if you took him. You made a smart move. That's what I was thinking. Like, the kid could have been hurt even more, and no way do I want to deal with all that. Legally in the US, and likely similar in Canada, it would work like this. You would likely be protected by Good Samaritan laws by acting as a rescuer. But if you put that kid in your car and then get in an accident by, let's say, in the intensity of the moment, and checking on the kid in your rearview mirror you run a red? Boom! Now you've potentially incurred liability. It just isn't worth the risk. You assessed the situation and called the services that were designed to handle this. And that too is a universal healthcare jurisdiction. There was nothing a-holish about your response. I'd be kinda annoyed at your girlfriend. Not an a-hole. Visibly broken leg? Ain't no way I'm moving anyone in that state. You likely would have caused more damage. Even just thinking about what the leg looked like sends shivers down my spine. Like, no blood or anything, but it was for sure broken. Just bent like the other way. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for a hotel room? My friends and I want to spend a week at a resort near the beach. My friend and her boyfriend are bringing his buddy and I'm going alone. The plan was my friend and I share a hotel room, and her boyfriend and work buddy share another. We drove here 7 hours, and the buddy was flirting with me, and I realized my friend and boyfriend was trying to get us together. I was not into it. He smokes and smelled fish. We got to the hotel and my friend and boyfriend came to me and asked if we could swap rooms so they could stay together. I was not happy since it means I would have to stay with a buddy whom I didn't know at all. He was okay with it, but I wasn't, and asked the front desk if they had an extra room. They did, and it was expensive, but I didn't want to stay with a man I didn't know anything about. The week was okay, but Buddy was ignoring me the whole time, probably because of the hotel room stuff. We got back, and then he sent me a text saying I had to pay half his hotel room because he was under the impression he only had to pay half. I told him no, he got the whole hotel room, and so he should have to pay for the whole hotel room. My friend called me to ask me to pay because Buddy doesn't have a job and can't afford it. I felt betrayed since it was her and her boyfriend who changed plans and tried to put me in a room with a guy who I didn't know. We argued and she hung up pissed. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. He was under the impression he only had to pay half. So were you. Opie's friend and her boyfriend should be paying for an extra room. What appalling behavior on their part. Who does this? Like seriously, friends set up friends on blind dates all the time. But hatching an idiotic plan to try and force her to share a room with her, in their mind, date, for an entire week? They caused this mess. You're right, they should pay for it. And Opie needs new friends. Not the a-hole. This is insane. Your friend is legit awful and the guy's gross and creepy. It's not okay to try to force someone to sleep in the same room as a stranger because you think they should have action. Gross, gross, gross. Consent anyone? Super proud of you for getting your own room. And don't enable this guy by giving him any money whatsoever. Not they home. The whole situation was gross. They changed the terms, not you. Stand your ground. Sounds like your friend and her boyfriend need to cover his half of the room. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband we can only help support his artist sister if she gets a real job? My husband, 39 male, and I, 37 female, have been married for 8 years and have 2 kids. He and his sister-in-law, 31 female, have always been close despite the age difference. There's also a brother in between who isn't relevant to this post. Sister-in-law is an artist who has been working full-time on her art since graduating from school several years ago. I respect art and believe it can absolutely be someone's full-time job. But the fact is that she's never made any money off of her art aside from selling the occasional piece to a family friend. I don't want to pass judgment on her art because I'm no expert. STEM person here. But she's been trying to make it for years and years at this point and hasn't gained any traction. And I don't think she's going to start making money off it anytime soon. Still, she considers her art her career, and my husband is supportive and proud of her. We even own multiple pieces of hers. Her parents were fully supporting her financially until a couple years ago when she moved in with her boyfriend, who took over. She and her boyfriend broke up earlier this year, and she moved into a nice apartment funded by her parents. Unfortunately, my in-laws recently passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. It was devastating. What they left behind will support sister-in-law for a while, but not forever, and not at the standard of living she's accustomed to, which includes having to move out of her current apartment. And now husband told me he wanted to give her money every month so that she can keep working full-time on her art and maintain her standard of living. We both fortunately have high-paying jobs and a lot already saved for our kids, so we could easily afford it. However, I don't like the idea of supporting a non-disabled adult forever who could make her own living but chooses not to. I'm okay with helping her out temporarily while she starts working and figures out how to make her own living, but not forever. I don't care if she starts out at minimum wage. She just has to be doing something that will make money and start her path to independence. I did slip up and call it a real job to my husband, and now she and husband are both telling me I'm an a-hole, because if she has to work full-time, she won't have time anymore for her art, and that being an artist is a real job already. He says I don't understand the sibling bond since I'm an only child. His other brother agrees with me and says it would be about time sister-in-law got out into the real world. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Sister-in-law has submitted to work to many galleries, / tried to sell her art online via social media, / etc. She's tried to sell to a larger audience than family friends / family members, but hasn't gotten any bites. So her not selling her work widely isn't for lack of trying, unfortunately. I'm not sure if it's because she's not great at promotion, or because the market just doesn't want what she's selling. NTA, NTA, NTA. I am an artist, but I am working to sustain my art career on the side until it can become my full-time job. Current job is slightly related to art though. No capable adults should expect to piggyback on other people's work for the rest of their lives. That is really disgusting. Your husband is slightly a-holish. Just because I get wanting to help out immediate family, especially since you guys are well off, but your sister-in-law is a massive a-hole. She needs to spend a bit of time in the less affluent part of the world and become a fully formed adult in my opinion. Yep, if it doesn't pay the bills, it's a hobby, not a job. There is no reason why sister-in-law can't continue working on her art with hopes of one day making it, while working a paying job to support herself. Many people who are trying to become actors, writers, and artists do because they didn't have wealthy parents and still needed to eat. Not the a-hole OP. Tell your husband by real job, you meant paying job. If we could all stop working to pursue our passions, everybody would and would all starve. Sister-in-law needs to start learning that passions don't pay rent or buy food. Not the a-hole. Tell your husband you'll be quitting your high-paying job to be an artist. So he'll have to provide for the family 100%. And you won't be taking on any additional childcare / household duties because, after all, your art is a full-time job. See if he thinks it's still a real job. Am I the a-hole for putting a restraining order on a friend? I, 23 female, and George, 22 male, had been friends for a long time as our families have been friends for 3 generations. After having a one-night stand, I gave birth to a baby girl, Visha, and she's now 2 months old. After I got out of the hospital, I took her to meet everyone and they loved her. George's mother is in a phase where she really wants a granddaughter, and well, she has all grandsons, so she became really attached to her. Well, George has also become attached and rather possessive of my daughter. The problem began when he started calling her his daughter, and would constantly say, "Daddy's here," every time she cried, and I told him to stop. And yes, her dad is in her life. We FaceTime and visit him as he lives in a different state. Well, one day while we were on FaceTime, my daughter's dad, Carl, 24 male, asked for a DNA test. It shocked me to say the least. So I asked him why. Turns out ever since my daughter was born, George has been sending texts to Carl saying how Visha wasn't his, that George was the father, and to stay away from his daughter. I saw red. I went to George's house and cussed him out and stopped talking to him. Mind you, my daughter is a month old at this time. Well, George took it upon himself to go to my house while I was at work and tell my mom that I said he could take her. My mom had no idea that I cussed him out and stopped talking to him. So when I came home, I found my mom asleep and my child nowhere to be found. I ran screaming, yelling at my mom as to where my baby was, and she told me George came and got her. I immediately got into my car and went to George's house. He wasn't there. I went to his mom's house and there he was sitting on a couch holding my baby. I grabbed my daughter and told him to stay the hell away from her and to never think about coming near us again. His mom, who was at home at the time, came walking in the door and asked what was going on, and I told her that George took my daughter without my consent. I then went to the police station and filed a police report and a restraining order. His girlfriend and also the mother of his son has been harassing me and calling me all types of names and saying I'm an a-hole for putting her son's dad in jail. So am I the a-hole for protecting my child? And also, I have never and will never hook up with George. That is disgusting to even think about. And I don't have a problem with his mom. I love her and always thought of her as a second mom, seeing as we were around them all the time and we were next door neighbors until they moved. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He kidnapped your daughter. It's as simple as that. Friends don't kidnap your kids. Right? I can't imagine going to my besties and leaving with her child, even if we have known each other since first grade. If I did that to my best friend, I know 100% it would end our 14-year friendship, because she would unalive me, and I'm auntie to her kids. We've done some pretty messed up things to each other, but our kids are a line we don't cross. Not the a-hole at all. George is weird and obsessed and it's creepy. Please let everyone know what he's been doing before his family can spin it to look like you're the crazy one. Get a lawyer and send him a cease and desist letter as well. Also get video recording cameras for your home. His family isn't like him. They immediately cut him off after they found out what he did. Thank God. You aren't the right in all this. It kind of sounds like George and his girlfriend wanted a set of a boy and a girl, and were trying to take your kid from you for that reason and cut you out. You did the right thing. What if he had thought about you getting angry and hurt your kid? Or realizes you were looking for him before you found it and hurt your kid trying to get out of trouble? He doesn't spend time with his son, and we would yell at him because every time his son would cry, he would yell, "I wish you were never born." It scared me half to death. I honestly wanted to end him. It's extremely alarming that he is so fixated on your daughter while ignoring his son. I would fear the absolute worst if I were his girlfriend. She doesn't care. She does anything and everything to please him, and he knows it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to spend Christmas with my family after my mom introduced herself to my 3-year-old by her first name? My mom and my wife avoid each other if they can. There was never a big incident. My mom isn't a just no mother-in-law, and my wife isn't some horrible daughter-in-law. But if they can get away with not speaking, they don't speak. For a little while, my mom tried to keep her close relationship with me by trying to see me when my wife wasn't there. But I felt weird about that. My life got busy, and more I told my mom that the only times I was available were when my wife would be there, so my mom lost interest in seeing me. In the 4 years I've been married, I've seen my mom a handful of times. It was hard on me for a while, but I feel like, what am I going to do when the two of them just don't want to interact? My mom did send a gift when my 3-year-old was born, and she has met her a couple of times. My mom is always polite when we see her, but obviously there can't be a traditional grandma role when she doesn't want to come around. My wife's family live across the country, so I spend most holidays with my family. My mom isn't the one hosting, and I am not forcing my wife into an uncomfortable situation. My wife genuinely likes a lot of my cousins, and we mostly hang out with them, and my mom hangs out with her husband, sister, and brother-in-law. My daughter has met my mom, but not enough to remember her, and is going through her curious stage. When we all gathered for Thanksgiving, she asked my mom who she was, and my mom gave her first name. She was really nice about it, but it still left a bad taste in my mouth, like she's still her grandmother. And while we aren't close at all, there was never a formal estrangement. I didn't say anything in the moment. My wife suggested it might be a vanity thing, but I don't know. She was never particularly vain. Recently, Christmas plans came up, and I stated that I don't want to go if my mom is there, due to her rejecting my daughter. Now, my whole extended family thinks I'm being dramatic. My wife is actually annoyed and says I'm being an A for wanting to deprive our daughter of a family holiday just because my mom is a witch. I just don't feel comfortable, and it really left a bad taste in my mouth. Obviously, there can't be a traditional grandma role when she doesn't want to come around. It's surprising that you accept this as fact, but are then so angered by your mother not introducing herself with a traditional grandma name. I mean, which is it? Either she's grandma and you make an effort to foster a good relationship between her and your daughter, or she isn't, and you accept that she will introduce herself as just another member of the extended family. You're the a-hole. Seriously, what was she supposed to say? And how was she supposed to know that was what she was supposed to say? You're the a-hole. I felt weird about that. You felt weird about seeing the woman who gave birth to you alone, yet you want her to stake claim to your child? I'm sure she's as confused as I am. You're the a-hole. It sounds like you and your wife are icing your mother out, and she is being very respectful of that. If you don't want her in a traditional grandma role, then why give it a title? Do you want your daughter to constantly ask, why can't I see grandma? Jenny's grandma picks her up every day. Have a grown-up conversation with your mom, following a conversation with your wife, about what type of role you want her to have in your daughter's life. She can decide if she's comfortable with that. But it seems like she's trying to respect that you don't want it to be traditional, and you're cutting her off even further and calling her a witch for it. You're seriously not thinking of your daughter at all, and seem to just want to stick it to your mom. Even your wife thinks you're in the wrong here. I would love her in a traditional grandmother role. Anytime I've invited her to spend time with us, not just me, she says she's busy. I've tried to include her in things, but she always has an excuse. You're the a-hole. Your mom did nothing wrong. You pushed her out of your life when she tried to have compromised and see you alone. If that was the only way I could see my mom, I would do it. She was disrespecting the woman I love by refusing to be around her. If she could have been normal and done some stuff as a family with us as a couple, then I would have hung out with her one-on-one. She refused to do that. Every time I try to include her, she has an excuse. Just because you love your wife doesn't mean your mom has to like her. Some people just don't get along. Not being around someone isn't disrespecting them. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my sister leave my house at a family dinner? Plus little update. I, 21 female, live with my now fiance, 25 male, and we like to have our families come over for dinners or to hang out. My fiance proposed over the weekend, and we did not tell anyone except my sister, 27, and his best friend. We wanted to surprise everyone with the announcement and invited them over for dinner, and my sister knew we would be announcing our engagement. At the end of the meal, before we brought out dessert, we told everyone that we had some exciting news. That is when my sister cut me off mid-sentence and said, I am pregnant again. Everyone in the family was so excited and happy for her and her husband. I think I stood for a solid minute with my jaw dropped. My grandma then made a comment to me about how sweet it was to have made this dinner for her announcement. I was furious. I walked up to her and her husband and said, please leave. And she looked like I had just stabbed her with my words. She started crying and saying how I wasn't excited for her and I was just jealous of her life. And she didn't think I even liked my nephew, too, whom I love and spoil. I told her again that she had to leave, that she and her husband could not stay anymore. My mom was furious with me and told me I had to apologize after my sister left my house. Her and my dad went on about how insensitive I was being, and that I was disrespectful to send my pregnant sister out of my house. I apologized to her and my family, but I still don't think I was in the wrong. I still have not told my family about my engagement. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before the little update. Not the a-hole. Your sister sucks for sure, but I think you probably should have told your family. After your grandma made that comment, you should have said that your sister hijacked the event and you told her it was to announce your engagement. By not telling everyone, it makes it look like your sister announced her pregnancy and you got so mad you kicked her out. So people are gonna think you were an a-hole instead of realizing your sister is to blame. Petty option. Tell everyone you threw the party to make your own announcement. Your sister knew that and stole it. If they want to find out what your announcement is, they can pressure the sister into throwing you a makeup dinner. Or have a party for some other people. Tell them and put it on social media. Send it to a family chat and write, "This is what I was going to tell everybody." Sis knew but didn't care that she stole that from you. With fiancé's family to make a point about her family's refusal to listen to her, we almost exclusively see my husband's family, because even if they pull some annoying crap, we know they'll have our backs if we need it. And if we lay down a boundary, they listen. I love my parents, but they are a-holes. Not an a-hole. You should tell everyone the dinner was for your engagement, and your sister knew beforehand. If anyone still sides with her, I'd go low contact with them, and I wouldn't include your sister in your bridal party and/or planning. I wouldn't even invite the sister to the wedding at all. Depending on how far it is, she will likely be announcing baby number 3 during the reception toasts. Why did you apologize? It was a truly awful thing to do. My advice? Don't bother telling your family. And if they find out from someone else and want to know why you didn't tell them, then explain. This is a level of pettiness that I am completely here for. Reminds me of this kid whose parents weren't going to their graduation because they weren't the valedictorian. In a way, they were actually that person. And instead of telling their parents, they just sent them a video of the graduation speech. Pettiness level 100. Edit/update. I FaceTimed with my mom and dad this morning and spoke with them calmly about everything that happened. My dad agreed with me that it was disrespectful of her to take my moment in my dinner. My mom, on the other hand, said I was still insensitive, and it was unfair for me to ruin my sister's moment, and that I could have announced it at a different day and let her have the moment. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter she can come to me if she wants hair removal? My 42 female daughter, 14 female, is pretty hairy compared to most girls her age, just like I was at her age. Brown jeans, LMFAO. Recently she mentioned how she had to wear shorts for basketball in school, and she had more leg hair than anyone else there, which made her embarrassed. I went through the same feeling as a kid, so I completely got what she meant. And I knew that she was going to try remove her body hair at some point, and I didn't want her to feel like she had to do it in secret like I did. So I told her that if she wants to remove it, she can tell me and we can work something out. But if she doesn't, there's absolutely no pressure to do so. Anyways, my husband, 45 male, found out about this and was enraged, telling me it just made her more insecure about her hair, and I'm gonna turn her into a look-obsessed idiot, his exact words. My reasoning was that she was already insecure about her body hair, and telling her she couldn't remove it would just make her miserable, and she'd end up doing it in secret, and probably in an unsafe manner. I'd rather her be comfortable and open with me about it so she doesn't hurt herself or feel anxious that I find out. I went through this whole thing before, and there was a time I plucked out my arm hair individually in secret before a party because I didn't want to look stupid. I don't want her to go through the same thing. My husband claims I'm setting a horrible example to her, and making her seem like that stuff matters more than it does. I'm scared that's what I'm doing. But at the same time, I feel like giving her a choice was the best option. I don't know. Is there something I'm missing or doing wrong? Not the a-hole, and men don't get it. Plus what he said was cruel. He isn't the one being pointed at and whispered about and made fun of. As a kid who went home crying every day for a year at 11 to 12, I get it. And 100% removing the hair will make her feel better. My family's upper lip hair people, and the teasing stopped as soon as they let me wax it off. He doesn't get how cruel children are, girls especially. Yeah, my husband's white and barely has any leg/arm hair. I was jealous as hell when I met him, so I really don't think he gets how exhausting it feels. And I 100,000,000% agree with you on children are cruel part. They see a girl with body hair and act like she's some alien being. You should stop shaving and doing hair removal for yourself, and let him see for himself what you go through. If it's no big deal, then he won't mind. Not today, home. You are being a wonderful, supportive parent. It is certainly age appropriate for her to remove hair. It is her preference to remove or not, which you honored in what you said to her. She obviously wishes to remove it, or she wouldn't have brought it up. Husband goes on the bench on this one. I wonder if you have a son, and what will happen when he reaches shaving age. I bet it would be a wonderful male rite of passage, not a boy being a looks-obsessed idiot. Thank you so much. I was really worried that I was just passing my childhood insecurities onto her, but I didn't want her to feel trapped, you know? And with the son thing? Exactly. No one's gonna force their son to keep a beard so they don't turn vain. Same should go with the daughters. Not the a-hole. Your husband is going way too far into the body positivity idea, and forgetting that A, not everything is about what other people think, she can do it just because, and B, your daughter lives in the real world where teenagers can be mean. Your husband is taking away her autonomy. You aren't telling her she has to remove it, just offering her a safe way to do so, and telling her that it's her choice. I don't think it's the body positivity thing for him, but more like why do you care sort of thing. The same goes for makeup. I painted her nails a couple times, and he acted like I was setting her up for a child beauty pageant. It sounds like your husband has a problem with your daughter growing up. Because a lot of men, maybe not just men, see makeup, nail polish, etc. like a way to make yourself look more sexually appealing. He has to understand that she's not doing it for others but for herself, something that you seem to understand more.